Well, howdy, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Thank you, Joshua. Kelly, you in there? Maybe. Well, guys, my name's Arthur Williams, and I'm an instructional coach at Lakeside Academy. Hyperdocs is an area that is very near and dear to me, to my heart, and something I get really excited about. So I'm really excited to help lead this and hopefully introduce you to something new, or if you're already familiar with it, help you to pivot and leverage this in your classroom. We don't have a ton of people in here right now, so I think that's pretty good. And Kelly's actually one of the teachers at my school, so she's going to be helping run the chat when I go to share my screen. But I wanted to check and see if you guys wouldn't mind. Maybe you guys could just share out real quick what exactly it is that you do wherever you currently are located.
I am a fifth grade teacher at McConnell.
Rebecca, I feel like I've met you somewhere.
You have.
Okay.
Lots of places.
Good. Okay. Because I'm like, this name is super familiar, but the picture's not doing her justice. Okay.
Well, thank you.
I'm also a fifth grade teacher at McConnell.
Awesome. Do you guys, do you both teach the same thing? What do you teach?
Yes, we're both self-contained.
Okay.
You're missing your intro. What? Introducing myself?
I'll mute Julie until she gets here. Who else have we got in here?
Hi, I'm here. I'm sorry.
Oh, there she goes. Hey, Julie, what do you teach?
I teach fifth grade at McConnell with Josh and Reed or Rebecca.
Okay, awesome. Do you guys use football names too? Go by your last name?
Yes.
Yes.
Likewise. All right. I know Wendy, but for the sake of the group, maybe you can introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Wendy Scruggs. I'm the math coach at Orchard Knob Elementary.
Hey, Wendy. Good to see your name at least again.
Yes.
All right. How about you, Cassandra?
Cassandra Reed. I teach Algebra 1 at East Ridge High School.
Awesome, Cassandra. Welcome. I've got some math example in our work today, although I am it's going to be elementary focused, but you can certainly use that as a starting point. Adam, are you still with us? Can you hear? Yeah, I'm not sure if Adam's there. How about you, Laura? Laura Dowd. All right, well, hopefully they'll jump in a little later. All right, so what I'm going to do is I have kind of some material to share with you, but I don't know if you're aware, down at the bottom of your screen, you probably have like where it says chat and some other things. On your reactions, you can do a thumbs up or a clap. So I was just curious with a thumbs up, how many of you have already either heard of or used Hyperdocs before? Okay, so a few of you, about half. Awesome. Laura, I saw in the chat you said you're here. Did you want to share what you teach, either voice or through the chat? She said Nolan librarian. Okay, well, very cool. I think that could be an interesting application through Hyperdocs as well. All right, guys. Well, I won't be able to see your faces once I go to share the screen, but Kelly Munson is in the background, and she can take the, if you have questions or you need me to stop or slow down and you don't want to just jump in with your voice, just type that in the chat, and she'll grab a hold of me and make sure that I pause and actually give a shot. So here is what we're looking at now. So for those of you who are already familiar with Hyperdocs, some of this will look pretty familiar. Oh, dude, I hate this one part because it gets in my way. All right, here we go. We almost can reach that slide that I'm, okay, whew, all right. That was a little tough. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the world of Hyperdocs. And share with you a little bit about what that looks like and what that can do for you. By the way, I already introduced myself, but I'm an instructional coach with a STEM focus at Lakeside Academy, and that is my email. And at the end of this, I'll go ahead and post the link to this slide in into the chat box, so you can grab a hold of this and have these resources as well. Okay.
Adam says he's here. He's just having technical difficulties.
Oh, okay, perfect. And if you give me 1 second, I'm responding to another teacher who's trying to get into this chat and having some issues here. Okay, oh, and by the way, this is being recorded, you know, nobody start cursing. All right, so what are HyperDocs? The main thing, this is from the HyperDoc girls. It's the 3 ladies who are kind of credited with creating the HyperDoc. And so this one is their definition, that transformative interactive Google Doc. We'll stray from that definition a little bit, but I wanted you to at least see the original definition there. But I wanted to pull it here. So this is really what we started to see from more of a contemporary view of HyperDocs. A lot of people will think this first bullet it's like, hey, it's just a worksheet with some links. And yes, that is a component of it typically, but it's far more than that, right? And we don't have to be constrained with Google Docs any longer. We see a lot of really strong HyperDocs be using Google Slides, Google Drawings, and all kinds of things. So it's really not meant to be just limited to Google Docs anymore, even though that was the original intent. And it is rooted in the SAMR or SAMR philosophy. And I put a graphic up here so that you can see what that is. It's also in our Hamilton County instructional framework documents, if you have access to that through Canvas. But essentially, it's taking the S and the A, the substitution and augmentation. And it's really, if you just had a worksheet with links, you really would just be substitution or perhaps augmentation, depending on what those links did. And we want to take that technology and use it to promote and move us up the scale to modification and redefinition. Some of our HyperDocs really actually start with the S and move students up through the R over the course of the work. But that's not necessarily, many of them will just jump straight in on modification or redefinition, and kids will run the whole time through that. So it's not to say that these two, the M and the R, is the end all be all. We need all of it. We need all of these pieces. Well, what you don't want to do is just live down here in one side, though. You don't want to just live in the substitution or augmentation side. Any of you already use the SAMR model or are familiar with that? We got one chat came through, so hopefully that's
Got a few thumbs up and a few I've never used it.
okay. Very cool. All right, so this may be a little unfamiliar then, but essentially if you think about the S, let me give you an example. If you imagine you were going to write an essay for a teacher, right? You're just going to use your pencil and paper, write that essay, turn it in. You could do that same exact thing with Google Docs, right? So that would be, oh, I write the essay on and type it instead of using pencil and paper. That's just substitution. It really didn't change it in any really meaningful way. The augmentation might be, okay, well, I'm going to write that essay, but I'm going to share it with my teacher using the share tool. And that teacher can give me some feedback on there. So yeah, you could still do that with pencil and paper. The teacher might put sticky notes on top of the paper and send that back, but you've augmented it a little bit, right? Now you've got essentially instantaneous feedback. I can share it in Classroom, or I can just share it directly, and that teacher can give me feedback and comments right away, instantaneous. So I've augmented it. That's a functional improvement. That's really taking your feedback up a little bit. Now, when we move into the modification step, now suddenly I'm writing that essay, but maybe I share that with classmates and I get peer revision as we're writing it. In fact, we share all our documents with each other, all our essays, and we help each other modify and improve on that, so that the final essay that I turn in really represents a collaborative piece. And it's moved me up blooms a bit here now. I can use that, that feedback from classmates. I can use perhaps some research that I've used through the Explore button in the Google Doc to inform my essay quite a bit more, right? And then the redefinition piece where you're creating and evaluating previously inconceivable. So far, everything in here I could still have done, right? I could have still had me and my classmates sitting around a table, and we could have passed our papers around and given feedback. We still could have done some research with, you know, some encyclopedias or pulled up, even on our devices, we could have pulled up some websites or whatever. But in the redefinition piece, now we're taking it to a whole nother level. So maybe that essay that I've worked with my team, my colleagues to collaboratively create, and now I'm getting ready to turn that in. Well, rather than just simply turning in that essay, maybe I make a website or a blog that where I share that view, or maybe all of my team members, we all put together and collaboratively create that website, and we put all of our essays on that with a point and counterpoint. Or maybe we take those concepts and ideas and we put them in a Flipgrid or a podcast, and we invite people in to really take that and go to another place. And so now we're looking at something that the technology has really made uniquely possible, that would not have necessarily been possible at all just sitting around at a table with my classmates and my teacher in a classroom without the use of that technology. So that's what we're looking at here with this SAMR model and what that could mean for us as we look at HyperDocs. So I'm going to pause here. I saw some chats coming through, and check in for questions. So let me just stop.
We had one question asking, what sort of podcasting apps do you use?
Interesting. I don't use a whole lot of podcasting myself. Our school is one-to-one with Chromebooks. And so there actually is for the teachers that we have a fourth grade teacher that's done it and a third grade teacher that's looking into it. There is a link that our website that we use for that it's very Chromebook friendly. All of the recording and editing can be done through a web browser. And I don't recall the name of it offhand, but when we finish, if you'll remind me, I'll go and pull that up through my email and send that to you.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I don't see any.
Okay, cool. All right. And was Lisa Millard able to get in?
I haven't seen her, but that doesn't.
Hadn't popped up yet. Okay. All right. Well, so again, that's that SAMR philosophy. By the way, when you get access to this document, this link here actually takes you to another, a different, I'll click on it. It takes you to a different presentation that I've done on looking at SAMR with blooms and webs in there, in particular, how they can work with each other, how you use blooms and SAMR can be used to really complement each other. So that's one you might could take a look at a little bit later. All right, so let's close that up. Okay, let's keep going. So let's take a look at a couple of examples. This website, hyperdocs.co, has some great resources, and it's where I would recommend we start it. I've got it pulled up already here, and if you're still seeing my screen, this is the About Hyperdocs, and so this is where I pulled that definition from. But they've got some really cool stuff, the ladies that have kind of created this. Oh, by the way, if you're interested, you can actually go and see the About Us, and you can reach out to them and contact Lisa Kelly and Sarah Landis. In fact, a lot of the resources that we'll see, the samples, Sarah Landis and Kelly Hilton do quite a few of them, but you can see kind of that. And they've got a great book you can purchase as well. I am not paid for or promoted by them in any way, so just letting you know that it's out there. All right, so going back to the About Hyperdocs, you can see where they kind of give you what they are and what they are not, and things that can be done. This collaboration is really a big piece of it, typically, though it's not necessarily required. But the two examples that I'm going to show you do have a collaborative piece. And I think that's a really kind of an interesting aspect where we might be able to leverage this season of digital learning to take advantage of collaboration in a different way than we have done previously. And they're heavy on the critical thinking, so we want to make sure that that's being used. But I'm going to go to the resources here, and you can see they've got all these different pieces here, and we're going to kind of live in the samples area. This is a nice place to begin your search. Again, it's just samples. This isn't all inclusive or anything like that, but they've got some categories you can use to get you started. I'm not going to click on them because it's a little slow to open, but I've already got it pulled open here. Whoops, not there. I've got it pulled open in another spot. Or maybe this is just the forward. Yeah, there we go. Hyperdoc lessons by subject. So this is where you'll get into, and they will take you directly to, you may recognize the professional development and the math and all of that. But this is what it will look like. And if you were in the math lessons one, for example, for our algebra teacher, you can see that they've got some of those Hyperdocs already in here. And you're recognizing maybe some of those names from the Hyperdoc Girls authors. So you could go down and take a look, open up a few of them and see what you think. You'll notice right away that we are looking at Google Docs as well as Google Slides make up pretty much all of these in here. One of the ones that I like the best, one of the authors of Hyperdocs is Carly Mora. I know her through Twitter, and she does a really good job with the stuff, or at least I really like the stuff that she does. So I've opened up this one already. And so here is an example of one that she's got with geometry, measurement, and coding. Really cool. Got a lot of STEM integration here, which is the focus that I like it at. But you see the collaborative piece right away, right? The teacher will break you into 4 groups, and you're going to be getting challenges as you visit the STEM lab each week. Typically, Hyperdocs are almost always broken up over an extended period of time. This isn't meant to be a day or maybe not even a week assignment. It's going to be over an extended period of time. And it says click below to jump to your assigned task. So depending on what their task is, they would go straight to, which is a little, an anchor in the document. But I'm just going to go look and show you one of those. So one of the things you see here is that she has this video embedded. It's from Khan Academy, and it's about measurement, how to measure. So this one is giving them some instruction in a way already that might not be easily done without technology. Here it says what they're going to do in the STEM lab, and down here is where you're really looking at almost a redefinition activity here. And I've made a copy of this so I can actually click in it and show you what it is. It says use this Google drawing to show the 3D shapes you created. Again, this is back in the STEM lab. And click on this image to edit. And so she does a good job usually of really explaining to kids how to use the tech. So I'm going to click on that. And if you've never embedded a Google drawing into a doc, you can see it's got this edit feature right here. And this is the insert for the Google drawing. So it says edit these cues by clicking on them to represent the 3 you built in the STEM lab and label them, right? So for their kids, they can literally be like, oh, okay, well, mine wasn't a cube. In the STEM lab, I had more of a, I don't know, maybe like a rectangular prism, right? And it was real kind of shortened like this. So now I can come in and get me a text box and say, oh yeah, it was like 25 centimeters in length, and proceed to go ahead and put in all their dimensions for this. And then when they're finished, they'll go ahead and save it and close. And you can see right here, look, it's in the Google Doc. The drawing has been altered with the measurements and the change in shape. So that's something I did in drawings, but now it's in this Google Doc. And of course, if I've shared this in Google Classroom as a teacher, when that student goes and resubmits, I'll open this document up and bam, there it is. I've got their work right there. So that's just one task, right, that they've done. These kids would have, by the end, they'll have done all of them all over 4 weeks, but they'll do them 1 week at a time. Here she's got one with a sphero talking about angles. Again, same format before, during, after. And once again, a Google drawing here to go through and literally click on using her directions, clicking on the blue dot and showing where that angle was, right, that their sphero did, and typing that angle in down here. So a pretty nice feature here using some of that tech. So that's one example. Down here at the end, she's got this connect and extend piece, right? Play the geometry game, find a partner, and then they're going to be using Scratch in there, and she wants them to take a screenshot. And so she shows them where to do that. By the way, that is using a Chromebook screenshot shortcut, so that would work if you have Chromebooks as well. But this is meant to really take you to the next level, and again, push up on the end of the R piece on their SAMR. So she really likes Breakout too. So this is teachers. We are playing World of Geometry. We can be found here. She'll almost always put directions in for the teachers as well. And you just of course need to delete it, as she said. But that's this example. Any questions from what we've got here from this 5th grade example?
Not yet.
Okay. All right. So another one that I wanted to show you, this was in math. Here in the American Revolution is a history one. This one is also by Carly, and it is 4th grade. Well, this is co-authored with Carly and someone else. I don't, who is it? Oh, Lisa Guardino. Okay. So she's got they both created it, but this one's a unit. So it's intended to take place over a good bit of time as well. She goes ahead and defines some of the items that you're going to see in this unit, and it's just using a Google slide. Again, the collaborative piece is here, but as I mentioned, she puts directions to the teachers on hers as well, which is nice for teachers. But you can see here, based on your team, like I've got a doc literally embedded in right here, right? So here it is, timeline team 2, timeline team 3. She wants them to physically make a timeline right here, and she wants them to title it, add an image, say when, discuss why, and she gives a nice model here for students to use to help them. But you can see, clicking in here, I physically click on the link in there. It opens up my Google Drawing, and I can proceed to go ahead and edit that, right? Like go ahead and do what I need to do as a student. And when I finish, it is available for my teacher to see team 5 or whatever team I'm on. And I thought I heard someone getting ready to pop in here.
I did.
Okay.
I finally got it to work.
Okay, great. So that is this example. You can see here she's embedding some other content through Quizlet, and going ahead and saying, hey, make sure you study the vocab related to it. So you click on that. You can see her vocab cards pop up about the American Revolution. Awesome. They study it, learn the stuff. And then she can go down here and says, post a screenshot of your progress, folks. So the students will actually put their Quizlet there. She's got a digital breakout coming up here with the American Revolution, got a few hints, and then the lock, which I thought was actually Google Form, but it looks like she used, Google Form here to go ahead and use their digital breakout and see if they got it correct. So embedding a lot of content in here in a way. You can tell this is definitely redefinition. And as you move through, you can see some other things. Here she gives them a little bit of text, but then links them to a social studies for kids article about Lexington and Concord. Same thing down here with George Washington. So they're getting some background knowledge, and then they're going to apply it later on. Here's their application, video of the Stamp Act, read here, physically get right in here and write about it. And they can physically play their Stamp Act video right here in the HyperDocs. So you can see we've got quite a bit there. And again, I would encourage you to flip through here as we go through. Lots of great stuff. And in her final rubric, using either WeVideo or a rubric, or a comic, or using Scratch to design it, really looking at how they're going to demonstrate. Oh, and we've got a choice board as well. How they're going to demonstrate their understanding through this HyperDoc that's going to pull all of the skills that they've been using and use those at the end. So another good example, this one actually wasn't even in, I think, the HyperDoc lessons by subject. This one just came up through a Google search for HyperDocs around social studies, and bam, like elementary, and then this one came up. So you can find a lot of great content that is freely available to use. Just, give a little credit here at the end. It's nice to make sure that the original authors are in there, but they're comfortable with you taking it and making a copy. If you get it from the hyperdocs.com CO sample. These, of course, are all available. There are some teachers who are doing a pretty good business on Teachers Pay Teachers, making HyperDocs as well. But typically, again, if you can find them online, you're okay. And of course, if you have any questions, they're just an email away. So that's what I wanted to show you from the examples. And those two are linked right here. Any questions?
I'm looking. I don't see any.
Okay. All right. So then as we proceed then, we look, oh, go ahead.
Oh, Laura said that she was thinking about submitting students' work this way. So she just had a comment.
Yeah, right. I think that could be really cool, especially since if you're already using a tool that you're, whether it's Class Dojo or Google Classroom or whatever, to get those kids this work and get them each a copy or to set up teams, whatever. I think this would be a great way to get some longer content in. And if your kids or their families watched the broadcast last night, they all have heard our superintendent and then the chief of innovation say, like, this work is not really for a grade that they're doing. So if anyone's like, oh man, I can't be graded on this, yeah, they're right. So this is a great way to help keep them engaged and still learn something even while they're doing a task that is standards based.
Yeah.
Anything else? Okay, well, let's look at how to get started. So what my main thing is, just like any coach, I'm going to say we could start with our backwards design, right? Start with the standards that, oh, did you say something?
Who?
Oh, I heard a voice. I was making sure I didn't
No.
miss. Start with
I did.
whatever you're attempting to assess, right? Of course, if my standard is around making sure to find unknown variables and inequalities, I'm just kind of trying to stretch back to my algebra background, then yeah, I need to make sure that that is the focus, right? But since this is a longer assignment, I would encourage you to build in standards, right? More than one. Or if you're going to just focus on one, perhaps making sure that they're going into it in a deep and unusual way. And then think about what you want your assessment to look like at the end. In both of these, they kind of were a little bit unusual. We had the one which had several options or several ideas for how they would show their understanding, gave them some choice. In the math one at the beginning, there wasn't a ton of that, but they did have a little bit, right? So just making sure that you understand that whatever it is that you assess, that you don't have to necessarily prescribe the what does it look like, but it should just be the rubrics based around how does it show mastery? And hopefully that's making sense. I do recommend a rubric for any of these. And in your HyperDocs here, they have a nice how-to section. And it talks, this webinar, it's pretty good and it's not hugely lengthy, but they really give you a nice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of deal, right? What do you need your kids to do, and how does that work? Did you include the 4 please? So there's a lot of things that can use to be help here. It's asking you to think about SAMR as well as you look at your checklist. So a ton of great resources right here for free in the hyperdocs.co. And there's even some templates based around different instructional models, right? We've got our basic one. We've got, if you're a fan of 5E, that's down here. Workshop model. So there's some great ones here that give you some templates if you want to use those to get started as well. I feel like, in my opinion, the 5E one is one of the best ones to get going. This one here can be a little bit daunting at times for people to get started, but it is very clear, that basic HyperDoc lesson. So that is a nice one as well. And as you get comfortable, you may take someone else's and alter it. You might start making your own from scratch. So there's a lot of resources out there available, and they're not all just HyperDocs. Kathy Schrock was an ed tech educator that's really popular and well known. She also does a lot of work around HyperDocs as well, and she's got some great resources too. So in any case, a lot of great stuff going on here, great resources available.
Well, yeah.
Have fun. I would say just be creative and have fun. This is really not typically done, at least in our district currently. We do have some high school teachers I know really doing some interactive slides. Ashley Cox is one of them, and she actually has a session tomorrow at 9 a.m. If you are online and are available, you can watch her interactive slides one where she uses Google Slides to do her hyperdocs over the course of a week or two. So that one might be interesting, but I wanted to just pause there and let you know, here you can find me, but are there any questions so
there
far?
Laura asked, should HyperDocs be a view only? And how can you ensure that the content is PDF style while also having screenshot work?
Okay, let me come back here and make sure I'm understanding that question. So Laura is asking about view only because wanting to make sure it's not altered.
That would be my guess, but.
So yeah, go ahead, Laura. Oh, sorry, I thought she was popping in. You absolutely can, if you do a Google Doc or a Google Slide, and depending on your method of distribution, it changes a little bit, but you can absolutely make any of them view only. The power of letting kids edit it is that they can put their work directly into the document when they resubmit it. So for example, if I was in my Google Classroom was the tool that I was using to get work out to kids, I might go into here and create this assignment, and I'm going wicked fast through here just because I know this is not a Google Classroom session. But if I wanted to add that link about the American Revolution, which I believe I've made a copy of previously.
Your screen.
Oh, and I'm not showing you my screen at all, am I? Thank you for that. I did that last time too. All right, sorry about that. Let me share that screen again. Okay, so I'm in my Google Classroom and I'm inserting a file, and I've got that American Revolution one, for example. I don't want them to mess up my original, so I totally agree with that. But I don't want to just make it so students can view the file either, because I need them to get into the document and make the changes. But you can make a copy for each student. So you could certainly give them that way. Now they suddenly have, they can get into it, they can do the work into it, but I know they're not messing up my original there. And again, that's just quickly done through your create an assignment in Classroom or in Canvas. You can do something very similar as well. So if you are wanting to really do PDFs and have kids annotate on top of those PDFs as part of the work, then yes, there's options for that too. And there's some great techniques you can use using Google Slides for that, or even depending on if your kids all have Chromebooks, maybe using an extension like Cami.
So with make a copy for each, then I would have to check each doc individually. Yes, you would.
Yeah, and it depends, right? If it's a group work, maybe you make a copy for each, but then you only have 6 kids turn them in with their names on the at the top. So then you're only checking those.
She's just trying to streamline her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's, I will say, for grad school, which I'm in right now, we've done that where we all work on a separate one and then put it all together and only one person sends it in.
Yeah.
It's been working fine.
Okay, I'm kind of scrolling back through some of the previous one. So they just screenshot all they can see. Yeah, for that one example that I was in, they were screenshotting to turn in some of those. Make a copy, you have to check each one. Okay, yeah, so it looks like we're pretty good there. Any other questions so far?
So I'm just going to save this to my drive once I open it.
Are you talking about
A hyperdoc. If I go onto that site you just showed and I want to copy, I just make a copy for myself into my drive, and that's what I attach to Google Classroom.
Yeah, you're going to want to make your own copy, because if I go into here and try to get, you know, one of these other ones, they're pretty much all view only. So like this one here, circle theorems. I haven't been in Sarah Landis's work before, but as I double click on it, if she's done what she was supposed to, I'm not going to be able to make any changes to this HyperDoc right now. In fact, let me go look up in the top left. Let's see. Oh, maybe. She's left it open. It looks like I actually could make alterations to this one. So just as a matter of courtesy, just make a copy before you
Yes.
before you get into it.
Okay.
Nearly all of them will be view only, and you'll have to either request access or make the copy.
Okay.
We had another one saying, what would be your best suggestion for a paperwork check? Should parents take pictures of work and text or email, or what? She's just trying to organize her life, as are the rest of us.
Yeah. So is this Laura, is this the librarian?
It's Laura. Yeah.
Okay. So Laura, what do you have currently set up by way of how are you getting a hold of your students?
Flipgrid.
Okay, so you communicate, set your video up and send it out, and then they respond. Oh, and Google Classroom.
Google Classroom. Yeah.
Okay. So that's that's not a bad way at all. As far as you're saying, should parents take a picture of work and text or email? Yeah, that could work. And or kids could even hold up their work in the Flipgrid video to show you. For that matter, if they wanted to, Google Classroom makes it pretty easy for students to resubmit this work to you if you're using any of the G Suite for drawings or docs or slides. That would be pretty simple. If you're thinking of your younger kindergartners, first graders, and you're thinking Google Classroom is a little bit much for them, if they are using Flipgrid, you do have another way there. And if not, then yeah, you could add. Now, adding parents as guardians won't let them submit work on behalf of their students. So Classroom may not be a great tool there. So they may have to take pictures and email you if you want to do it that way. Oh, she says our K-2 does use Google. Okay.
Oh, she said doesn't.
Does not. Oh, okay. There we go. Yeah, so for your kindergartners, first graders, second graders, you'll want to set up another delivery system. Kelly, what are you guys using for your classes? Are you using Classroom?
We're using Classroom. We are not being super stressed about them showing us their work in math, especially. I know that's where we need to, and they need to show us their work. So we've asked them to do that, but there's no way, especially with our group, because I'm at Lakeside, we can't hold them accountable for it. So we are not super stressed out. I do really like the idea of using Flipgrid, though, and having them flip up their work real quick for work.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be very hard at all. So that's not really something that we're stressed about a lot of things, but we're trying to let it go. We're using that grace that Dr. Johnson was very into last night.
There you go. Lots of grace. For my McConnell peeps, 5th grade, what are you thinking over here as you listen and watch through this? Any ideas for integration?
Well, some of the things that we were talking about ourselves were we could use things like this to even backwards plan, especially now that we are essentially remote in a lot of places. During the summer, to not have to pick a place to come together and meet. We could throw together a meeting or something and start working on HyperDocs and things like that. But also working with our students, just being able to have a unified plan moving forward, because that's been such a struggle, it seems like. We have some kids that do have the ability to access the materials, but some that do not. So just making it available, like you were saying, and just a great tool to be able to use to somewhat the best that we can right now, hold them accountable, but also not stress them out, I guess. And this is just a neat tool. I really like the HyperDocs thing. We even discussed, real quick, maybe we did a PD this morning about interactive Google Slides. We could embed the Google Slides into the doc or vice versa. And we can work all of our stuff together. So it's kind of a neat idea, just kind of putting all these things together.
Yeah, and that was what I even mentioned to Ashley Cox. That should have been the session you were watching this morning. And she had a co-presenter, I think, on the interactive slides. So that one's got a lot of possibilities. Is that who you were watching, Joshua?
Yes, we watched Ashley Cox and Kristen Barbary.
Barbary, that's right.
Yep. It was a great one.
Yeah, so that should be that one. That one is really Hyperdocs by another name, essentially, because I've actually seen some of hers around genocide that she had for a unit, and it's really a Hyperdoc.
Oh, absolutely. She was talking about how she needs to print some of those out, and she just makes them 8.5 by 11. And I was like, oh, so it's like a Hyperdoc.
Yeah, and you can change the format in Google Slides to be so that it's set up to be 8.5 by 11 to make it a little easier to print and fit more on a piece of paper. Staples is still supporting our district with printing those materials for free, but you do have to get them a thumb drive. And you may be able to email them too, but you have to get them that information, and then they will still print specific schools and teachers content for the community. So that is still an option if you're wanting to try and do that. And no problem, Julie, about the 1-year-old. Not a big deal. I'm seeing down here in the chat. Wendy, I know you're a math coach, and then we had a math teacher. Any ideas coming to you as you are looking at this?
Well, as far as the videos, I like the interactive one. I think it would be good for teachers to start using that. Maybe I can help them set that up. Also, for me, if I want to get, when I present, I can do more Hyperdocs, maybe where I can share it with them on Google Classroom, and then they can interact with me while I'm presenting. So those are some things I have been thinking about.
Yeah, there actually is a section on there about Hyperdocs for professional development. So you certainly could use that as a way to help promote your staff. I'd really look at it more as an independent PD that they could go through, access some video or supplemental content, and then try to apply it. There may be as far as interacting with a presentation, something like Nearpod or Pear Deck might be a little easier for you if you're wanting your staff to do that.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that's some really cool ideas. And then I don't remember, was Cassandra the math teacher?
Yes, I've used some Hyperdocs, like they were really, really basic. And so I'm really excited to just go look at some more of those examples that they've put together.
Okay, that's awesome. And where do you teach, Cassandra?
At East Ridge High School.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, so as we're kind of going through here, I'm glad to be able to hear from some folks about some things that they're thinking about. One of the things that I always think, especially for it sounds like our 5th grade self-contained, is social studies is always the redheaded stepchild that kind of gets thrown under the bus, and everybody's like, oh, I got math and language arts to get to, so whatever's left over, we give a smidge to science, and we just kind of pray over social studies and hope somebody learns something. But this is a great opportunity to get some of that social studies content in a self-directed way. Really let kids get excited about it, especially with some of those digital breakout tools for them to be able to collaborate to figure out, oh man, how do we use, stuff like the Civil War or Reconstruction or Antebellum South or whatever to break out of this and maybe even use each other as they call each other or flip grid each other or whatever to help figure those codes out. So I see definitely some ideas and some possibilities for addressing maybe some content gaps that have come up to this point. I'm not saying you didn't teach social studies. I'm just saying when I did in the classroom, I didn't teach social studies. All right, guys. Well, that's kind of where I'm going to leave it off then. I wanted to let's make sure to leave this room and space for questions, but that brings to the end of this. So if you have some more stuff you want to hang out, that's fine. But otherwise, I am all finished. I see that. Oh, yeah, you guys, you're welcome. I see the thanks. All right, gang. I'm not seeing anyone saying, hey, hang out, I have some extra questions. So I'm going to go ahead and shut this down. And oh, before I do so, I forgot to put the link to the document into the chat. So I'll do that now. My apologies. So make sure that you guys can get access to that. And I'll send that to Lisa Millard also so that she can get a hold of that, since she left before that was available. All right, so that is in the chat now. If you want to, you can either download the chat or just copy that link. And for the McConnell folks that left early, maybe you guys can help them out. Actually, it looks like everyone might still be here. You can still catch that up. So, all right, gang, I'll give that a few seconds to let you have a chance to copy that. And that's it.